In the months following the storming of Seringapatam on the 4th of May, 1799, English newspapers would have carried the news. And this would have come as a huge relief to British readers at the time.
Now, this for the British was a huge triumph because it was the death of their principal adversary and also the extinction of the possible menace of a French-Indian coalition against the British.
But for most of them, it would be very difficult to actually visualize the scene, and that's where our artist, Henry Singleton, steps in. He's a young artist coming from a family of artists who's trying to establish his reputation as a painter of great historic scenes. And he sees this as a great opportunity.
No one really knows how Tipu died, so this is the painter Singleton's imagination of the death of Tipu Sultan.
The painting shows the very last moment of Tipu Sultan's life, and it shows him horribly exposed. He's got a few supporters, riflemen standing behind him, but his turban's been knocked off onto the floor. His jama has been torn open, so his head and his chest are bare. And there's this all too close group of redcoats kind of rushing towards him. Rifles poised to shoot. There's no doubt about what's going to be the outcome of this scene.
Now, popular legend has it that there's not even any proof the British actually killed him. It could have been a betrayal. Because there is the famous story of the moat around the fort of Seringapatam. The fort was impregnable because of the moat around it. But in order to get supplies into the fort, there were passages under the moat, which were only known to the top courtiers of Tipu Sultan. And one of them betrayed to the British.
It was known that Tipu Sultan did try to get to the point in the wall. And so officers are sent into his palace and into the zenana to see if he's lurking there. And eventually, one of his servants says that he saw his master fall, and he takes the British to a heap of bodies near one of the gates. And there is the body of Tipu Sultan. And it's obvious that he's been killed not in close combat, as this painting suggests, but by a distant shot or by a fall of masonry. But there's a further element of ambiguity in this painting.
The British officer who's closest to Tipu, stabbing him in the waist, may actually be trying to snatch the kamarband. So the assumption is that the victors at Seringapatam were actually looters.
That's not a glamorous story. Why does he choose to show a British audience this? Say to his compatriots, we may be great conquerors, but our conquest is based on thievery, which is a bold thing to say to a British audience in 1800.
Tipu Sultan himself is a very contested figure in our history. So in many ways, which side of that particular debate you fall on, it becomes a matter of contention. Now, this painting shows somebody else's view of an event. It's the British view of their victory.
And you've got generations now of Indian historians who've sought to nuance that, to reverse that, to bring in more Indian source material and to question the English source material. The The painting would have been understood by British audiences at the time as an example of what was called history painting, which in the decades before, artists tended to focus much more on events drawn from classical history. So Singleton sees the way things are going, that history painting is moving more into the contemporary field, and he cements that by producing this scene. Several versions, print versions of this were made. All of Europe got to see this painting at the time.
Today, when we look at it as a painting that is ironically in India and owned by an Indian art gallery, I think we can look at that meaning and appreciate its value.
It makes this a great work of art rather than just a bit of triumphalism.